Thank you very much, Mrs. Lisa Donahue, for being with us in NotiUno 630.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, Mrs. Donahue, we know you have had a lot of experience as a restructuring officer in other companies and corporations and all that, but this time it's a little bit different because this is a public corporation, and indeed it is the most important corporation of our country. And basically, maybe in your hands will be the future of the economic development of Puerto Rico by restructuring this public corporation, the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority. So, are you aware of that reality? The reality that this is a quest, a very demanding quest in those terms, that this is a public corporation and that the 3.7 million people is looking at what is going to happen here.
Well, I'm well aware of how important PREPA is to the island and the people of Puerto Rico, and the issue of reliable and sustainable power and a healthy PREPA. Yes, I'm well aware of that.
Which are the three main problems that you have been able to come to acknowledge and of the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority?
Well, bearing in mind I've been on the ground for 10 days, less than 10 days, I think that I would look at it a little bit differently. I think that it's clear that the current situation is not sustainable and has to be addressed, and that's one of the reasons why I'm here, to come up with a reasonable resolution that will allow PREPA to continue in a sustainable way and to provide reliable power. So that's my goal, and that's my job for the next 7 months, is come up with a plan that makes sense for all constituents and something that's executable in a reasonable time period.
We know you have been here for only 10 days, but in those days, have you been able to come to know the cash flow situation of the PREPA, of the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority? What is the situation in terms of the cash flow?
Well, part of the forbearance that was agreed to in August allowed for the flexibility to access cash and to be able to pay their debts as they come due during this time period. So the cash flow at the moment is allowing the company to pay their debts. But as I said, for the long term, the situation is not sustainable and has to be resolved.
But it is very, very deep, the cash flow problem in the PREPA, or it is something that we can, that it has salvation, the PREPA, as it is today?
I expect that the plan that we come up with will allow PREPA to be stable and ultimately thrive. At the moment, PREPA is operating under a forbearance with its creditors, and there has been an agreement that allows for the continued operation and payment of fuel. But in the long run, the situation with PREPA must change.
There have been a lot of controversy, Mrs. Donahue, surrounding your contract, because it is not clear, well, which are your powers within the structure of the Electric Power Authority. So I want to make an exercise with you, and that you tell me if you have or you don't have this kind of authority in the PREPA. I'm not asking if you will do it. I'm just asking if you can do it.
Okay.
Okay. Can you lay off workers? That's in your contract. That's an authority that you have.
I have the ability to make the recommendation for the restructuring of PREPA, which could include any and all opportunities. So it's not clear to me yet what the ultimate plan, but we're looking across all sorts of elements of PREPA to determine what the right...
Let me get this straight. So you don't make decisions, you just recommend what is the plan to follow.
What I'm looking to do is come up with a holistic plan that will look across fuel, power, generation, transmission, overhead, infrastructure.
And I understand.
And that will all be part of what has to be negotiated.
And we understand that,
Okay.
but the main point here, and my question is, if you are the person who has the authority to make those decisions or not, you only make recommendations, or you have the authority to, if necessary, lay off workers, if necessary, restructure the debt of PREPA, if necessary, to make those kind of changes. Do you have the authority to make by yourself those decisions, or you just will recommend?
What might be helpful here is just a bit of an explanation on how a process like this works, because I think it can't be boiled down to that simple term as you're trying to boil it down to. The best solution here and in any situation where you're trying to effect change and trying to come up with a resolution is truly a consensual plan, and that's not done by any one person, me or anybody else. It's part of a process. It's part of bringing the stakeholders together and explaining why this makes sense, why that makes sense. So an isolated question like that, is there one individual in my view that can absolutely do that? I don't think in any situation that's the case. Certainly none I've been involved in.
The governor of Puerto Rico, Alejandro Garcia Padilla, have said and have established that whatever is the solution to the PREPA situation, it can't be layoffs, it cannot be through privatization, it cannot be through doing, well, increasing the basic fare of its clients on all those things. And how you react to that? How are you going to come up to a plan with those restrictions if you're going to do it? I mean, are you going to follow the public policy of the country or not?
Well, my job here is to come up with the best resolution for PREPA.
Not necessarily following the governor's establishments and all those things?
I think it's important that whatever the ultimate recommendations are, we come up with full facts, full analytics, and understand the implications of whatever it is that me and my team come up with as a recommendation, and that's all going to be looked at.
Yeah, but the question is, if in those considerations of the solutions to our problems, the PREPA problems, if you're going to follow the public policy of no layoffs, is that in your mind, or you're just going to analyze strictly the facts of the corporation and going to apply it to the problems and come up with solutions, not necessarily following that policy?
What we're going to do is look across all elements of the organization and come up with different options and different recommendations.
How are you? Are you aware of the great politicization that is in the guts of the PREPA? I mean, sometimes, or maybe a lot of times in the corporation, there are positions that are given to people that not necessarily have had the preparation, the academic preparation to fulfill the requirements of those positions, but they are there because of their political affiliation. So are you aware of that situation and how you're going to deal with it, if you're going to?
I would say that this would absolutely not be the first situation where that type of situation exists. I'm not aware of it being any greater or less than other companies that I've been at, where perhaps someone may be sitting where it may not be the best job fit for them. So again, we're going to look across every element and determine what's best for PREPA and what's best for Puerto Rico as a whole.
There have been a lot of investigation recently surrounding the fact of corruption in the process of petroleum for the company, for the corporation, and how are you going to deal with that? That's a fact that there are things that are not well, that have been corrupted in that process. And how are you going to deal up with that? Did you know that?
I was aware that there is an open investigation relating to fuel purchases that my understanding has happened 18 months to 2 years ago. Is that correct?
Yeah.
One of my team members is a fuel expert. He comes from Royal Dutch Shell and is working hand in hand with the fuel team to help them with forecasting in any ways we can be helpful. I've seen no evidence of fraud or corruption, and if it exists, we'll deal with it in an appropriate manner.
Okay. Mrs. Donahue, we have been dealing with this amazing problem that we have with PREPA for a long time now, maybe 20, 25 years. And there have been a lot of plans of how to resolve those problems. No one have done it. So far, I have to be honest with you, you have not told me something that is very different from those things that they have said before about how we're going to address those problems. So I would like you to tell the people of Puerto Rico, how will you, in general, will acknowledge and will address those problems that the PREPA is suffering.
Well, I appreciate your honesty, and I think that, as I've mentioned, it's early stages. I expect to continue to be given cooperation and free access from the management and employees of PREPA, and they've been very forthcoming and very helpful. And I expect that when we come out with a plan, it will be something that will be stabilizing and sustainable. And I know you're looking for specifics. I maintain it's a little early for specifics, but we will get there. And I feel very confident that we're going to get a consensual plan, and one that will make sense for all stakeholders. When you say consent,
that means that you are under the vigilance or the authority of the board of the Electric Power Authority. Is that correct? You are under...
I'm working very closely with the board, if that's your question.
No, my question is if you are under the authority of the board of the Electric Power Authority.
I don't think I understand exactly what your question is.
Okay. Do you respond in your charge, in the charge that you have, do you respond to the board of directors of government of the Electric Power Authority?
I am reporting to the board, working alongside Juan Alicea. Is that your question?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm having a hard time understanding precisely what you're trying to get at.
Yeah. Is if you are under them, if they are your supervisors in terms of that you have to report to them and tell them this is what I think we have to do, but they are the ones who take the decision.
I am reporting to the board, and I think any sort of decision will be recommended to the board. They would have to agree with it, and then of course whatever other elements within Puerto Rico would have to agree, and also the creditors are going to have to agree. So there's lots of different masters in this process and lots of different people that have to be communicated with and negotiated with.
And if the board doesn't accept one of your recommendations, it will be not done. It will not be done.
I think it would be very difficult to execute something that the board and PREPA itself didn't somehow buy into.
Okay. Well, thank you for having us here.
Thank you.
For accepting this interview with us.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.